One of the biggest misconceptions in capital raising is that investors need to become your friends before they'll invest with you. People believe they need to spend months building relationships, taking investors out to dinner, attending networking events, and constantly staying in touch before they can ever ask for a commitment. The reality is that most successful capital raises don't happen because someone became your friend. They happen because you have a clear process, a compelling opportunity, and the ability to communicate it effectively. Welcome to Capital Myths, the show where we break down some of the most common and most expensive misconceptions in fundraising. I'm Rahul, and today's myth is one that I see founders, fund managers, and sponsors fall into all the time. You need to befriend investors to raise capital. Although it sounds reasonable, in practice, it's usually one of the biggest obstacles to actually getting deals done. Like most myths, this one comes from a place of truth. Historically, large investment decisions were often made through personal networks. Business was conducted over dinners, golf outings, conferences, and private introductions. Relationships absolutely mattered. And in many settings, they still do. But somewhere along the way, people started confusing relationships with friendships. Those are not the same thing. Relationships create access. They help open doors. But access alone does not close an investment. What closes an investment is a structured process that helps an investor understand the opportunity, evaluate the risk, and make a decision. That's a very different thing than simply being liked. And unfortunately, many sponsors, founders, and capital raisers spend far too much time trying to become friends with investors and not nearly enough time building a process that consistently converts interest into commitments. The reason this myth persists is because it feels intuitive. Most people assume that if someone's going to invest a significant amount of money with them, there must first be a strong personal connection. And certainly, trust is important. But trust and friendship are not the same thing. I've met investors who wired six figures after only having a handful of conversations. I've also seen founders spend years having lunches, dinners, and coffee meetings with prospects who never even invested a single dollar. The difference wasn't the relationship. The difference was whether there was alignment. Another reason this myth survives is because it's comfortable. If you tell yourself that you need to spend more time building relationships, you never have to ask those difficult questions. You never have to really qualify the investor. You never have to ask whether they're actually interested. You never have to ask for a decision. You can stay in an endless cycle of follow-ups, coffee meetings, and conversations that feel productive, but never actually move towards a commitment. And that's where many capital raises get stuck. People mistake activity for progress. They assume because they're talking to investors that they're going to raise capital, but having conversations and securing commitments are two completely different things. When investors evaluate opportunities, they're generally focused on three things. First, they want to understand the potential return. Second, they want to understand the risks. And third, they want confidence that the people managing the opportunity can execute. That's really what they're evaluating. Not whether you'd be fun to have dinner with, not whether you have common hobbies or interests, and not whether you'll become best friends. Investors are looking for competence, alignment, and confidence. The problem with the friendship approach is that it often creates the wrong behavior. People start chasing investors. They become overly accommodating. They continuously move timelines. They avoid asking for decisions because they're afraid of damaging the relationship. And eventually, they begin operating from a position of need rather than confidence. In capital raising, that's a dangerous place to be, because investors can sense desperation immediately. And desperation almost always weakens your negotiating position. One of the fastest ways to lose leverage in a capital raise is to make an investor feel like you need them more than they need you. The moment that dynamic shifts, the conversation completely changes. The better way to think about capital raising is not friendship, it's process. And honestly, it's much closer to dating than most people realize. When two people go on a first date, neither person is trying to force a relationship. They're trying to determine whether there's alignment. Do we want the same things? Do our goals match? Are we even compatible? Capital raising works the same way. You meet an investor, qualify them, you understand their objectives, you determine whether your opportunity fits their investment criteria. And then one of two things happens. They're either interested or they're not. And both outcomes are perfectly acceptable because the goal isn't to convince everyone. The goal is to find the investors who are already aligned with what you're offering. That's a very important distinction. You are not trying to manufacture interest. You're simply trying to identify it. And when you approach fundraising that way, everything becomes easier. You stop chasing, you stop over-explaining, you stop trying to overcome every objection. Instead, you focus on clarity. You present the opportunity, you answer questions, provide information, and you allow the investor to make a decision. The best operators I've worked with all share one characteristic. They're detached from the outcome of any individual investor conversation. They don't endlessly follow up. They don't continuously change their process to accommodate a single prospect. They present the opportunity, they answer questions, they create a path to a decision, and then they move forward. The reason this works is simple. When you're not emotionally attached to a specific investor, you communicate differently. You become more confident, more direct, more professional, and ultimately more trustworthy. Because you're no longer trying to persuade. You're simply helping someone determine whether the opportunity is the right fit for them. Here's a simple test. Think about the investors you're currently speaking with. Are you guiding them through a process? Are you waiting for them to like you? Are you qualifying them? Or are you performing for them? Are you helping them make a decision? Or are you trying to avoid hearing no? Because those are very different approaches. The truth is that capital raising is not about popularity. It's not about being the most charismatic person in the room. And it's certainly not about becoming everyone's friend. It's about creating trust. And trust is built through clarity, consistency, transparency, and execution. Not dinners, not golf outings, not endless relationship building exercises. Those things can support a process, but they can never replace one. So that's today's myth. You need to befriend investors to raise capital. You don't. What you need is a process that identifies qualified investors, a process that educates them, a process that answers their questions, and a process that helps them make a decision. Not every investor is a fit, and that's okay. Do not chase, don't over-accommodate, and don't get desperate. Build a system, run the process, and let the right investors move through it. That's how capital gets raised. I'm Rahul, this is Capital Myths, and next week we're breaking another one.